going on, vinyl community and Kiss Army? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to do a year in review for 2025, but it's going to be the Kiss Vinyl Edition. The end of the year is upon us, and that usually calls for a moment of reflection, and many music fans will often list off the best albums that came out in the year, as well as best reissues, best box sets, etc. And it got me thinking that this year was a particularly exciting year for Kiss and Kiss-related vinyl pressings, and it would be fun to have a look back at what's come out this past year. Now, this video is going to be divided up into different sections. We'll focus on Kiss Online exclusive anniversary pressings, box sets, off the soundboards, solo releases, select bootlegs, and some personal highlights for myself. We have quite a bit to get through, so enough of the chit-chat. Let's jump into what this video is all about. First up, we have some Kiss Online exclusive anniversary pressings. Anytime a Kiss album celebrates a notable anniversary, Kiss Online commemorates it with a new merch line and some exclusive vinyl pressings. These are typically colored vinyl pressings that are limited to a couple thousand copies, and picture discs that are limited to as low as 500 copies. And as you would expect, the picture discs usually sell out within like a half hour and become a reseller's dream. Now, I think I speak on behalf of a lot of buyers that it's a nuisance that you have to purchase bundled apparel in order to get these pressings. If anything, let us choose the shirts, because some of the designs that they've been choosing to bundle the vinyl with are absolutely atrocious looking. But I digress. If you've been watching me for a while, I don't do the picture discs just because they are absurdly expensive, but I do go for the colored vinyl because, well, I'm a sucker for it, and I gotta say, they really started to up the ante as to what kind of colored vinyl they would use. So back in May, we got the 45th anniversary pressing of Unmasked, and as you see, they kind of gave some artwork elements, some embossments on the front and back cover, and they also added a bit more detail on the front cover, because if you look at the 2014 reissue jacket, it looks a little muted and sort of just flat, whereas this, I feel, visually pops, and it looks really, really great. Now, we did not get the original poster that came with the album, but instead, we have a new sort of live poster, which looks really great. I definitely had a t-shirt with this image on it some years back. And then check out the vinyl. This is pressed on what I can describe as sort of like orange and yellow starburst with green splatter vinyl. Not gonna lie, it kind of reminds me of the original Mexican pressing of this album and the way they did it on colored vinyl. For any of you hardcore Kiss vinyl collectors, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know if that was the intent with this particular pressing, but it looks really, really sharp. Then in July, we got the 40th anniversary pressing of Asylum, and same kind of deal. They added some embossments with the sort of color spots on the front cover. Same deal with the Kiss logo and the album title, and that continues with the color spots on the back, as well as the outline of the band on the back cover. As for the poster, we got a sort of "Accept no imitations" poster here. That was the slogan that was commonly thrown around back when this album first came out in '85. And then check out what they did for the vinyl. This is really cool. So they did clear with color splatter vinyl sandwiched in the middle of two pieces of black vinyl, which I can tell kind of goes with the sort of color streak motif on the front cover, which is pretty interesting. But also check out the label, and this is where you can kind of connect the dots, because the label that they chose to use for this pressing is the one that was used on the original Japanese pressing of the album. And then if you got the picture disc of this, they actually replicated the Japanese obi, so it kind of all ties in together. But nonetheless, this is a very stunning looking pressing. Definitely a hardcore manual process to make a pressing like this come to life, but it is very, very fitting. Then in October and November, we got a double hitter. We had 50th anniversary pressings of Dress to Kill and Alive. Now, for Dress to Kill, what they did was they added some gold inlays for both the logo as well as the album title, and they replicated the embossed Kiss logo that borders the band photo. And all the text on the back cover between the track list and the credits are in gold instead of the original white. As for the bonus poster, we have a great early 1975 live shot, which looks absolutely fantastic. And then the vinyl itself is pressed on what is described as ghostly gold vinyl. So it's kind of like a variation of a splatter, as you can see. And they used what I like to call the gold Bogart label, which looks really, really great. And then for Alive, same deal. They added some gold inlays for where the album title is, as well as the side indicators on the back. All the text is in gold, not just on the back cover, but also on the gatefold where it says notes, more Kiss, as well as the borders around the album covers. Now, in a move that is kind of questioning when you consider the box set, which we'll get into, they have the original 8-page book, and as you see, it is printed on sort of foil paper, at least the outer pages are, but that's replicated here. And as for the poster, this is the kind of stuff that makes me so happy. We have a poster of the banner that appears on the back cover, which is absolutely awesome. And then this pressing is done on what is described as gold and white cornetto with black splatter vinyl, again with the gold Bogart label. Now, I have to say, between this and Dress to Kill, the color vinyl looks awesome, but it is out of step with the gold nugget pressings that they did for the debut and Hotter Than Hell from a year prior. But nonetheless, it all looks fan-frickin-tastic. Next up, we got some box sets. It had been 3 years since we last got a box set, the last one being Creatures of the Night in 2022, and there were some murmurings of there being a box set for the debut in the works, but due to the brand transaction with Pop House, everything sort of got pushed. Now, not only was the dry spell broken, but we got 2 box sets this year, but both of them were released a month apart from each other, between October and November. I kind of wish that, the powers that be would have given us fans a little bit of time to financially recover, but needless to say, with this time of year being when they came out, it was indeed a very expensive Kissmas. Now, the 2 box sets that we got were for the albums that celebrated 50th anniversaries and were released in tandem with the colored vinyl exclusives, of course those 2 being Dress to Kill and Alive. Dress to Kill features the remastered album, some great demos, unique alternate mixes and takes, along with the undoctored Detroit and First Davenport shows recorded for Alive, the former being arguably the holy grail of Kiss live recordings. And then we have the Alive box set, which has the remastered album, the undoctored second Davenport show, and Wildwood shows recorded for the album, along with some bonus rehearsals and a selection of tracks from Cleveland. Now, both of these are only available on Kiss Online, of course, bundled with merch. And not to play devil's advocate, but my guess is the physical retail sales of both Destroyer and Creatures of the Night kind of weren't up to snuff for Universal to go down the traditional sort of retail route. So perhaps that's why they decided to make it a direct-to-consumer release only through Kiss Online. I won't go too crazy into detail about which box set is better. You can read my reviews on Tracking Angle to learn the ins and outs. But to look at things at an overall optimistic view, here we are in 2025 getting these lavish releases from what is Kiss's golden period, and we get to hear multi-track recorded shows from 1975 that have pretty much laid dormant for 50 years. If Universal and Pop House can keep this momentum going into the new year with more product like this, then us Kiss Army soldiers are living in a renaissance period. Next up is the Off the Soundboard series. Now, the last new Kiss product that we had before this year was the Off the Soundboard Poughkeepsie 1984 release, which came out in 2023. And I suppose shortly after the Pop House transaction took place and 2024 passed with pretty much nothing in terms of brand new material. Then out of the blue in April, the series was revived with San Antonio 1985. I love that they did away with the basic plain cardboard packaging that had appeared on the other releases, and we have a cool sort of live collage cover. Great wide shot of the stage with the enormous Kiss logo on the back. This also came with an additional poster of that same back cover shot, just only in color, which looks absolutely great. And it is pressed on multicolor starburst vinyl, which just looks absolutely stunning, and it lives up to the sort of flashy neon aesthetic of the Asylum era, which is when this show took place. Now, I had a theory that because Asylum celebrated its 40th anniversary and we got this show, we would have maybe got another Off the Soundboard release from the Unmasked tour for its 45th anniversary. But it was not the case. Regardless, it's great to have this series revived and hear Kiss, warts and all, as I'm sure many of us would love to hear them. Next up, we are going to move on to some pressings of solo releases. Back during the beginning of the year in January, there was an unofficial pressing of Gene Simmons' Asshole, which originally came out in 2004. I do have to say, after getting the Gene Simmons Vault box set last year, I've really come to appreciate this album for what it is, and it does display Gene's eccentricities as a songwriter. This pressing does come with a printed inner sleeve here. There is a fold-out poster, which looks like that, and it is pressed on silver vinyl. So despite the fact that this has never been officially pressed on vinyl, if you want it on the format, there's at least this version to go after. And then we had some releases centered on our beloved original spaceman, Ace Frehley, who had unfortunately passed away towards the tail end of this year. Friday Music did a reissue of the Live Plus One EP, dubbed the expanded version, because they just simply took some of those live tracks from the Hammersmith Odeon show that was released on VHS and have appeared elsewhere on multiple Ace Frehley solo releases, kind of integrated them into the set list and called it expanded. So there's nothing really too new here. It is packaged in a gatefold with the same cover image as that VHS tape that I was just talking about. And in typical Friday Music fashion, they always do multiple colored variants of all their titles, but I opted for the sort of orange flame colored vinyl version, which does look pretty cool. And then we also have the Now Playing compilation. So this is a part of Rhino's inexpensive line of starter pack comps. This focuses on the first Frehley's Comet album all the way up to Trouble Walkin', and it's a solid primer, and it's of course pressed on blue vinyl, which looks really, really great. Now, if you're watching this video when it goes up, Peter Criss's new self-titled album came out today. I do have a copy on pre-order, but not physically on hand to show, and it's his first solo album since 2007's One for All. And honestly, the news of that album was very assuring because the announcement had come shortly after Ace's passing, and Ace had perhaps the most prolific solo career out of all members of Kiss, so it's great to see at least one of the original four still wave the flag for new releases high. Now, there's also a couple of releases I'm going to make mention of that I don't have in my collection. Trouble Walkin' was reissued by Friday Music. The day that I'm filming this video, yesterday, there was a liquid-filled variant announced by some label out in Europe, and they're also doing some colored vinyl pressings. And the liquid-filled ones sold out almost instantly. And then, speaking of liquid-filled, Record Store Day Black Friday, we had Eric Carr's Rockology and Unfinished Business, and I just could not bring myself to spend $100 a pop on those pressings. As much as I would love liquid-filled records in my collection, just because, you know, it is a little bit of a niche novelty thing, and it is Kiss-related, I'm hoping that maybe copies will still linger and the prices go down, but those are some other notable Kiss-related vinyl pressings that are out there. Next up, let's talk about bootlegs. If you're a longtime viewer of my channel, you know that I am a sucker for Kiss bootlegs, and I use my platform here on YouTube as a means of getting the word out about these titles, because When you have everything officially by a band that you love, you want more and beyond. And I've said it before, regardless of varying quality, whether it's solid soundboards or subjective audience recordings, the packaging really rivals what's being done officially. Now, there were about a dozen or so new Kiss bootleg releases that came out this year alone on vinyl, but I've narrowed it down to 5 notable highlights, some of which I haven't showcased in any videos on my channel this year, so keep an eye out for some more thorough Kiss bootleg content in the new year. First up, we have the Hot in the Shade Chronicles box set. I actually did an unboxing of this on my channel sometime this year. The Hot in the Shade tour is one of those odd cases where there is not really a definitive soundboard recording that circulates, but the only real sizable thing is the Pro Shot show from Detroit, which appears on the Kissology Volume 2 DVD. So that appears here across 3 LPs, and then we have the show from the Stone Pony, which is an audience recording, and it does feature a pretty cool set list. This is limited to 300 copies, and it is pressed on yellow vinyl. Really, really solid stuff. Then we have Houston Killers. This is a soundboard recording from the Creatures tour. Now, apart from these soundboard shows that leaked out and were featured in the Creatures box set, there were some other soundboards that have been slowly trickling out, and this is one of them. This comes with a 4-panel insert, fold-out poster, pressed on white vinyl, and it sounds spectacular. Now, here is something really cool. This is the Tokyo 1978 series. This consists of the 5 shows Kiss did as part of their Japanese tour of 1978, where each show was recorded via audience recordings, and they're putting out each show on different covers with different booklets and posters. The last 2 installments haven't been released yet, and I have the first 3. This right here is the first one, and I plan on doing a whole separate video breaking down this series. Here's a really cool one. I actually did a video on this release as well. This is Dodger Rock Stadium. This is the Psycho Circus tour kickoff at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles on Halloween night, 1998. Soundboard recording comes in a trifold jacket, includes a poster, and it's pressed on splatter vinyl. And of course, I gotta mention at least one of the picture disc box sets. And here is the latest one. And don't worry, there's an unboxing coming. This is Can-Am Tour 1977 Volume 2. This includes the San Francisco soundboard and the Fresno audience recording, along with a nice booklet, a model display, a ruler, puzzle, all kinds of good stuff. Now, those 5 examples alone just scratch the surface of what's been out. And if you want to see more of what's been out this year, head on over to Brian's Kiss Vinyl on Facebook, which is my go-to destination for all of my Kiss bootleg wants and needs. Last but not least, I want to share some personal highlights that I've acquired within my Kiss vinyl collecting journey this year. Back in January, I managed to cop the orange vinyl variant of Rock and Roll Over, and there's a great backstory behind it. So, around Christmas time last year, I shared the video of me receiving my uncle's old vinyl copy of this album when I was like 5 years old, and it more or less went viral, and the record store I got this from, On the Record in Woodbury, actually commented on the video, and sure enough, you know, here I was repurchasing the album at that store, which was kind of cool and as well as ironic. And then in June, I acquired First Kiss, Last Licks. This was a promo-only release that came out around the time of Hot in the Shade and was limited to around 800 copies, and it does sell for 300 to 400 at this point, but don't get too excited because this is an unofficial pressing on colored vinyl, but due to the collectability and history, it is a very cool piece to own. And last but not least, in October, I obtained what was my #1 Kiss vinyl grail, and that is a green vinyl official pressing of Sonic Boom. I've had 2 unofficials in my collection that I was happy to settle for, but an opportunity came thanks to Xander at Kiss Army Things and Kiss Museum, where he offered me a sealed copy for the whopping low price of $200. Literally the steal of the century. So there you guys go. That is my year in review for 2025 Kiss Vinyl Edition. Now here's a question for all of you. What Kiss vinyl did you snag this year? Did you get the anniversary pressings, box sets, off the soundboard, solo releases, bootlegs, or some personal grails? Please drop me a comment down below. I'd love to know. And if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.